Hi, today we're going to look at multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. Multiplying fractions and mixed numbers is actually pretty easy, as I feel like it's much easier than adding and subtracting them, because in these cases you don't have to get a common denominator. Let's take a look at the steps. So step number 1 says to change to fractions. What that means is that you cannot have any mixed numbers and you can't have any whole numbers. They can only be fractions. So let's talk briefly about what that looks like and what that means. If you do have a problem and it has a mixed number, we're going to change those to improper. Okay, improper fractions. If you have a problem and it has a whole number, all you have to do is to put the whole number over 1. Oh, I'm so sorry about my pen. Over 1, and that will change it into a fraction. So that's the first thing, is to take a look at those two things and make sure that there are no mixed numbers and there's no whole numbers, and if there are, to change those. Step number 2 is to cross-reduce if possible. That's not something you have to do, but it makes your numbers smaller, therefore easier to work with and less likely to make a mistake. So we do highly recommend that you try to cross-reduce if you can. Step number 3, you're going to multiply your numerators and multiply your denominators. Just multiply right across. And then the last thing is, if you can simplify, do so at the end. You'll notice that that will always be probably the last final step whenever you're dealing with fractions and mixed numbers. So let's do a couple. So in this first one, the first thing I notice is that I don't have any whole numbers. I don't have any mixed numbers. They're already fractions, so I can go straight to step number 2, which is to try to cross-reduce. Well, when I look diagonally, I see I've got a 5 and a 5. Well, those cross-reduce to a 1 and a 1. The next one I have is a 2 and an 8. Well, those can also cross-reduce to make that a 1 and make that a 4. Now we're going to multiply our numerators. 1 times 1 is 1. Multiply our denominators. 4 times 1 is 4. And lastly, look to see if I can simplify, which I cannot, so my final answer is 1/4. Let's try it again. So I've got 9/10 times 6/7. First thing I notice, I've got no mixed numbers, no whole numbers, so we're going straight to cross-reducing. The 9 and 7 cannot cross-reduce. Nothing goes into 9 and 7. But 10 and 6 can cross-reduce. What goes into 10 and 6? 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Now let's multiply. 9 times 3 is 27. And 5 times 7 is 35. Nothing goes into those two numbers, so I am done. Let's take a look at the two below. Looking at this first one, I see I have a mixed number and I have a whole number. So before I get started, I'm going to change those to be just fractions. Let's change 1 2/5 to an improper fraction. This is a good time to remember how to do that. To change a mixed number into an improper fraction, we're going to start by multiplying the denominator times the whole number. 5 times 1. Well, 5 times 1 is 1. Now we add our numerator, which would be 7, all over the same denominator, which is 5. Like we said at the beginning, we can't have any whole numbers. So I'm going to change 2 by putting it over 1. 2 over 1. I now have just fractions. Now I'm going to look to see if I can cross-reduce. 5 and 2, nope. 7 and 1, nope. So let's go ahead and multiply across. 7 times 2 is 14. 5 times 1 is 5. I can simplify by changing this back into a mixed number. 5 goes into 14 twice with 4 left over. And that's as far as we can go. And the last one, let's change both of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, all over 2, times 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7, all over 4. Let's see if we can cross-reduce. 5 and 4, no. 2 and 7, no. Let's multiply our numerators. 5 times 7 is 35, and 2 times 4 is 8. Now I can simplify this by changing this to a mixed number. 8 goes into 35 4 times with 3 left over, and the denominator stays an 8. We've got one more. It's going to be a word problem. It's always nice and good for you to practice things with word problems. It says here, for a science experiment, Evan needs 3 pieces of string that are each 5.5 inches long. How many inches of string does he need total? So we're looking for his altogether, how much string he needs. We can do this two ways. We can add 5.5 plus 5.5 plus 5.5 all together, or we can multiply 5.5 times 3. I think multiplying is easier than adding fractions, so that's the route I'm going to take, but either way would give you the right answer. Let's change 5.5 to be a mixed number. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11 all over 2. And remember, to make 3 into an improper fraction, we're going to place it over 1. I can't cross reduce anywhere, so let's multiply across. 11 times 3 is 33. 2 times 1 is 2. Let's change that to a mixed number. 2 can go into 33 16 times with 1 left over. So I've got 16.5. Looking up at our answers, I have found my correct answer, which is letter D. You could have gotten the same answer by adding, but of course, since this lesson is on multiplying, I wanted to show you that way. Good luck.